Hello, Heather Leavitt Martinez here. I am wanting to show you some tests that I've done on some black paper using colored pencils. Now, this is a follow-up from a testing series that I did yesterday using the new Neuland cover. Now, I'm doing this for a couple of different things. One, I'm testing on black papers with the new cover to see how it's reacting for an upcoming class with Sharon Zeugin, Dancing with the Dark. And one of my other favorite things to work with is pencils. So let me show you what I've learned with the four different papers, art papers that I'm using with colored pencils and the color pencils that I used. So here are my tests. The four different papers that I'm using is Fabriano's Black. This is literally the blackest paper that I have found on the market. Then we've got some Astro Bright. This is the Eclipse. And so it's just a very inexpensive cardstock. And then we've got Hahnemuhl's Ingress paper, which I love the texture, very thin paper, but holds up really, really well. And also Canson's Métienne. So both of these papers are very popular with calligraphers. And so I wanted to test them out. So what do we notice right away? Take a look at this and tell me, what do you notice right away? First of all, we notice that the black is very, very black. And some of these other papers, while very dark, I have to say they have wonderful texture. The Fabriano doesn't have much of a texture. It does have just enough to pull in the materials that I'm using. The Astro Bright, this is just a cover weight cardstock. I actually use it a lot for bleaching because I like how it bleaches. And then of course the Ingress and the Canson, or the Hahnemuhl and the Canson, they have beautiful deckled edges, and they just work so nicely. The next thing I noticed, because we have really black, we have a lot more contrast here. And I'm also noticing that the Koh-i-Noor, this is the, let me just show you, let me break down these tools for you so you can see them. Let's start from the beginning. The Pilot Color Eno Green. This is a mechanical pencil that is colored pencil. It comes in, I think, 7 or 8 different colors. And what I did here is I chose some of the brightest colors of each one of these, but I couldn't make them all yellow or we wouldn't be able to tell them apart. So the Pilot Color Eno Green, wonderful. The only issue I have about this, and what I don't like about mechanical pencils in general, is that when you press down hard, it pops off. And so I was going really, really slowly and nicely till I got to somewhere in here, and then it eventually popped off again. Then we have the Stabilo Aquarellable, which means it's water soluble. And the Stabilo, this particular one is great because it works on paper, glass, and metal. Now, I normally use this pencil or one like it for laying out my grids for pinstriping, or if I'm laying out anything on glass. So love it for that. But I also wanted to see how it would show up because it's water soluble. I might want to play with that a little bit later. Then the next is, and my friend Kristen introduced me to this series, it's called a dry marker. It's by Koh-i-Noor. And what it really is a fluorescent colored pencil. And so this one's orange. And it looks really great on white papers, but it dulls a little bit when we get to the black papers, but at least it still shows up. Then one of my favorites in terms of metallic is Derwent has a whole series of metallic pencils. This is the pewter. So it's not going to show up as bright as the silver, but look at how bright it is already. Look at that Koh-i-Noor being bad because it's a round pencil. I just love hex pencils so much better. And then let's talk about Blackwing. One of my favorite pencils on the market, definitely my favorite brand. Blackwing comes in 12 different colored pencils. And I have found that these are so soft and so nice and waxy and pigmented. So of all the color pencils I've used, these are absolutely my favorite. And I used the pink in this series because a lot of the other colors were already taken. And again, I wanted to show some of the brightest colors so that you could see what those look like. And then I was curious to pull out some of my other pencils. These are not colored pencils. These are actually chalk pencils. And I wanted to compare, these are both by General. The charcoal white, this is the 558. This is probably likely the student grade. And then the Primo Bianco charcoal 59W, this is probably the artist grade. Again, both round pencils, not a super fan of those because they roll off the table, then they break even on the inside. But I have to say that other than how I had it sharpened, these both showed up consistent on all of the papers. So I would use these interchangeably. I wouldn't necessarily choose one over the other. So if you're looking for a white charcoal pencil, any of the general pencils are going to work great. So this is sort of my overview of the tools that I used on the 4 different papers that I wanted to experiment on. And I would use these all for different reasons. Is there one better than the other? It depends on what you're using. For the Fabriano Black, if I wanted the most contrast and I had a little bit more money to spend, because this is a pretty pricey paper, I would go with this one. If I wanted to do something really quick, I was concerned about the price, then I would use the Astra Bright cover. I might even play with how I bleach this and then go over it with colored pencil. The Ingress and the Canson, of course, are just some all-time favorites because of how they work with other materials. I always have some of this on stock. Again, the Ingress is thin, but it's a really durable paper. The Canson Martinez, it's a little bit thicker. So it's, while this might be more of a text weight, the Canson Martinez is going to be not quite a cover weight, but it could go either way. It could be a page in a book, or it could be a cover in a book. And so this is it. If you find anything else that you've learned about using these papers or these mark making tools, or have questions for me, please put them in the comments below. And I hope to see you at Dancing with the Dark with Sharon Zeugin starting September